Hey, true crime friends. Welcome back to another episode of True Crime in Academia. I am your host, Mary DiPipi. I hope you all had a wonderful week this week. I've had the house to myself most of the week, and it's been kind of awesome. It's just always so strange to me how, the second I'm alone or, responsible, because I'm house sitting, so responsible for a house, I don't know, I just go into my old when I used to live in an apartment, those days, I just become so much more productive, I guess. And with cleaning and stuff, I normally don't, because mostly I'm only taking care of my room, but I'm not responsible for the other spaces in the house. So keeping them clean isn't ever on my radar, but because I'm in charge, I just vacuum the whole downstairs. I've got to clean the floors after this, and I don't know, it's just so weird. And it kicks in instinctively, which I also find interesting. But yeah, and it's just, I don't know, my mood has been better. Not to say that I don't like living with my parents. It's just, I don't know, it's just different. It's nice. I don't know. That's all I have to say about that. But yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend coming up. It's supposed to be nice from what I've seen. So, hopefully I can get outside and enjoy it. And you all should too, get that vitamin D. Anyway, this week's case is a little different. I do not have the resolution for this case, sadly, meaning I don't have the court records from the trial and anything like that. So I don't know how this case ends, but it is definitely a different case. We are going across the ocean to India. Sadly, to a murder that occurred to a 15-year-old college student there. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. Before we jump into it, please just know I tried to look up the pronunciation of some of these names and places, and it was a little difficult for me to find that information. So, if I mispronounce anything, please know that I am so sorry. I'm just doing my best. Luckily, the last names are a little bit easier, so I should be able to get through that way. But yeah, just wanted to let you all know about that. Or Arroyo, I'm sorry. Like I said earlier. On September 13th, 2022, Nikhit Kumar, a student of Adarsh Inter College, was taking a test for his social science course, led by his teacher, Ashwani Singh. Kumar had studied hard for this test and was really good at reading and writing. During this test, Kumar had accidentally blacked in 2 boxes instead of 1, and by doing this, he accidentally misspelled the word social. Singh saw this error, and instead of doing what most teachers would do, which is most likely ignore because, it's a mistake, it's only one little thing, it's stupid, it's whatever, let it go. Instead, he grabbed Kumar by his hair and then beat him with a rod and kicked him. Kumar fell to the ground and became unconscious and had to be taken to a nearby hospital. He did regain consciousness for a little bit in the back of the ambulance on the way to the hospital, but he experienced difficulty breathing. And when his parents arrived, the doctors had said that he had suffered internal injuries and had to be treated at several hospitals. His parents understandably called the school and tried to find out what happened. When they learned about the beating, they were met with verbal abuse by the teacher who had just beaten their child. With no help from the college, the parents and other members of the community protested at the Inter College. The principal of the school intervened during these protests and assured the parents that Mr. Singh would cover the medical expenses for young Kumar's treatment. In the subsequent actions with the teacher, Singh continued to mistreat, misbehave, and use caste-specific words against Kumar's parents, especially with this whole money interaction. Now, he paid them 40,000 rupees, which is the equivalent to about $491 here. Now, I'm not 100% sure what it's like to be in a hospital in India or what their healthcare system is like. It seems like that might have helped. I'm not 100% sure if those were the full costs of everything that he needed, but either way, his behavior after the way he behaved is just absolutely repulsive.
LGBT stories are universal, but each one speaks to the individual heart and soul of the writer telling it. Do you have a story to tell? If so, the Gay and Lesbian Review wants to hear from you. Have you been moved by an LGBT book, film, painting, television show, or other form of media? The GNLR believes in bringing awareness to queer art and artists through reviews, commentary, and thought pieces in which the author relates their personal lives to a particular piece of art, a novel, a movie, or what have you. In addition to the articles published in the print magazine, the GNLR also publishes articles on its blog as well as personal essays on its popular Here's My Story section. This allows people like you to share their own experiences with our readers. To learn more about submitting either to the print or the online edition of the GNLR, visit glreview.org. That's glreview.org, and scroll down to the bottom of the page to find a link to their writer's guidelines. If you have any questions, email stephen.hemrick@glreview.org. The GNLR can't wait to see what you have to say. And remember that they're offering an exclusive code with the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. So when you subscribe to the magazine, you'll receive a free copy with any print or digital subscription. So that's 7 issues instead of 6. Again, just visit theglreview.org and click subscribe and enter the promo code ITBR for your free issue. Hi, this is Andrew, and I'm interrupting what I know is an enthralling interview because I want you all to know that we are sponsored by Broadview Press. And if you don't know, Broadview Press is an independent academic publisher who publishes books covering topics like English studies, writing, philosophy, history, gender studies. And every season on the podcast, I interview one of the Broadview Press authors. So for the fall, we had Ann Stevens on to talk about literary theory and criticism. She played a Wizard of Oz literary game with us. She talked about why Bridgerton actually involves literary theory. So does 50 Shades of Grey. Who knew? And also, we just had on Jeffrey Weinstock, who wrote the first ever pop culture analysis book. So, I am all things a lover of pop culture, especially my Hollywood topics, Real Housewives, the list goes on. And he also wrote the book called The Mad Scientist's Guide to Composition, where he's writing a book teaching students about how to write rhetorical strategies, but it's all around this metaphor of being in the mad scientist laboratory, because as you'll learn when you hear our episode with Jeffrey, he is a gothic and horror fanatic. And I mean that in all the best ways possible. So you don't want to miss Broadview Press's exclusive discount because you're listening to the podcast. All of you get an automatic 20% off. Use the code Ivory Tower for 20% off site-wide on all of their books. So in our show notes, we have a link to Broadview Press. Make sure you click the link, put in Ivory Tower, and you're going to get 20% off your order. So enjoy your reading, everyone.
Now, some of you may be wondering, what is this caste system? And you're probably thinking it relates to like the class system. And if that is what you're thinking, then you are correct. The caste system in India comes from ancient Hindu tradition and law, dating back to at least 1,000 years before Christ was born. Now, basically, it gives an order and regularity to society, and it divides Hindus into 4 main categories, starting with the top being the Brahmins. From there, it goes down to the bottom being the Shudras. The other 2 ones, I apologize, I do not know how to pronounce them, but essentially the top, the Brahmins, they are your priests and your teachers. Then you have like your warrior group, then you have like your noblemen, and then you have the Sudras, which are basically your merchants, people in charge of capital business. Now, there is a very small, or not small, I should say, but then there is a subgroup called now the Dalits. They are what you call the untouchables, and they are the lowest of the low, considering they're not even technically considered part of like one of the 4 main categories. But they are people who basically are like, they take care of the water wells, they take care of the waste system, the trash system, the funeral rites and services and rituals and things like that. So because they touch such unclean things and the dead, they themselves are considered to be unclean and therefore untouchable. Now, in the 50s, there was legislation that was made to get rid of this caste system. And even though this caste system is very rigid, and you're probably thinking, can people go in between? I should have prefaced that first, and I apologize. But no, you cannot. You are born into, you marry the same, and you die within the same caste system. It's very rigid, and in a way, it is based off of like what is needed by society. However, my huge problem with it is that it looks down upon the lower categories, if you will, or levels, specifically the Dalits. So, not really down with it. I'm not judging anyone who follows this to a T, and like lives their life this way, but it creates this hierarchy of worth. And when we're talking about human life, like that's not something you should be taking into consideration. Like all life is worthy of living. And, it's not anyone's decision whose life is more important than others. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I just don't like that that's what it promotes, essentially. However, though, the idea that these certain aspects of society are needed, it's like, yeah, they have the worst jobs and, they're born into having to continue this. And it's, up until actually even the 80s, they weren't really even allowed to go to school, is my understanding from my research. So, and again, if anyone, if I'm saying anything that is incorrect, I do my research, but sometimes not everything is as factual as it could be. So if I say anything incorrect, you can email ivorytowerboilroom@gmail.com and just put in the subject line True Crime in Academia and then the episode number and, fact check me. I love to learn. I'm not offended by it. If I get something wrong, I would like to know. But so this is my understanding essentially of the hierarchy of the caste system in, the Hindu religion and thus in India. Now, because of this deep-seated belief and just because of the longevity of it, you can see how it would be difficult for people to let that go. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be more open-minded, not the people of India specifically, obviously. This is just a case where this happens, but obviously discrimination happens everywhere. So, like I said, I'm not specifying it. I don't want to come off as specifying it to one place just because we're talking about it. That's just where this example is coming from. Anyway, I just think that, it's not a surprise to me that even though they've outlawed this system, that it would still be in the minds of other people to follow it. So in this instance of this case, we have this teacher, Singh, who, like we said, teachers are at the top. And then we have 15-year-old Kumar, who is technically seen as from the Dalit community or the Untouchables. And you see, obviously it's obvious how this obviously it's obvious. It's clear that Singh's decision to brutalize this child was because of this old ideology that he's stuck with now. Hey, Ivory Tower Boiler Room listeners and true crime friends. You've heard me gush over this incredible woman and her beautiful products. I'm talking about Mandy Made It. Mandy makes customized and original crochet and pre-cut goods. They are the perfect, unique, one-of-a-kind gift for literally anyone in your life. And she makes incredible home decor. I still have my pumpkins that I put out every fall. I just love them. Check her out on Instagram at MANDEE Made It, or search Mandy Made It on Facebook. To order, just slide into her DMs, and if you mention the Ivory Tower Boiler Room, you will receive a free personalized gift with your first order. So, go on Instagram and look up at Mandy Made It, and Mandy is spelled MANDEE. Again, her handle is at Mandy Made It, Mandy spelled MANDEE, and order today. Again, just to be clear, I'm not saying that his way of thinking, justifies his actions. They don't. I like to know why people do the things they do personally. So, basically I'm just saying that this is an explanation for why. And, clearly he also has anger and temper issues on top of that. But, yeah, so I kind of just wanted to explain that so that way we could understand this situation more. Again, it's not right. I'm not saying it's right. He should not have been brutalized. And nor do I think that just because you grew up with a certain ideology or religion or morals, what have you, that you're stuck with them. I believe that that man, Singh, is stuck with them because he seems like a very close-minded and hateful and, quite frankly, evil individual. I'm not saying that of everyone in that, belonging to the caste system, or not belonging to, but you know what I mean, following the caste system in India. I mean, you can be open-minded. There are open-minded people out there. It's just, it's clear that in this situation, specifically with this teacher, that he was just that way. And it's a shame because sadly, after over 2 weeks, Kumar succumbed to his injuries while he was in the ambulance on his way to another hospital for treatment. At this point, obviously, the parents were just like, we have to file a report, and they did on the 24th of September. Now, the superintendent of the police ensured that the teacher was booked and that they had the post-mortem report by a panel of doctors as evidence. They also had the test that, with the misspelling and the 2 boxes filled in and things, to prove that these events occurred. Singh was also immediately suspended by the school, and he also went on the run. So 3 teams were dispatched to locate him and arrest him. Singh is being booked under sections of the IPC, Section 308, attempt to commit culpable homicide, 323, voluntarily causing hurt, and 504, intentional insult with intent to provoke breach of the peace. He is also in violation of Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes Act, which basically is to prevent hate crimes against these people. So, yeah, unfortunately, I do not know if he was arrested. I do not know if he was taken to trial. But it's just really, really sad to see how these systems of hate can infiltrate places of learning. You know, and I mean, it's so, I never really think about the way that other countries are, and it's probably because I'm a stupid American and, you know, I hadn't really paid too much attention to it, but I have to say that, like, doing this podcast and covering cases from around the world has really opened my eyes to not only the different ways that schools run in these different countries, but also with how, like, their cultures are and their societies and the way that they view things and such. So, like, honestly, I had no idea that this was something that was still going on in India. I just assumed that, you know, anyone could go to school and, you know, as long as you had the funding for it, what have you, you know, like here. But obviously that's stupid because in this situation, obviously, we know that that is not the case and that there is, you know, huge segregation, or maybe not segregation, but discrimination, that's the word, for, you know, people of different positions in society, even though they're all needed. That is technically also the point of this Hindu caste system, is that, you know, they're all needed. But like I said, I just can't get on board with the whole looking down upon, you know, another person from another quote unquote caste, you know, because they're lower or, you know, lowest of the low. It's not how I get down. But again, no disrespect to those who do, you know. That is what it is. I'm just not a proponent of violence, and I don't think that it needed, obviously that did not need to happen. This is like one of the most, I don't want to say stupid, but like this is one of the stupidest reasons I've come across to kill someone. Literally. Even though he probably was like, well, I didn't mean to do it. I was like, you don't come close to, like, beating someone an inch of their life and then be like, oh, shit, I didn't mean to. It's like, no, you lost control, and you need to, you know, own up to that. And I hope he is. I hope Mr. Singh, wherever the fuck he is, I hope he's in jail. I hope he's rotting. And, yeah, that's about it. So that is all I have for you guys today. Please don't forget to check out True Crime in Academia on social media, at True Crime in Academia on Instagram and TikTok, and at TC in Academia on Twitter. For bonus episodes, go to the Patreon, www.patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room. Please buy me a cup of coffee. I'm exhausted. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, my loves, I hope you all have a safe and healthy and relaxing weekend ahead of you. And until next week, I'll see you later.
Welcome to the spring season. This is Andrew from the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. Make sure that you always listen to our new episodes on Mondays. Are you following us on social media? No? Oh, you need to. Follow the Ivory Tower Boiler Room on TikTok and Instagram at Ivory Tower Boiler Room, and on Twitter at Ivory Boiler Room.
Hey, True Crime friends. This is Mary DiPipi, host of True Crime in Academia. Don't forget, episodes come out on Fridays at 7:30 p.m. And you can also follow True Crime in Academia on social media. On Instagram and TikTok, we're at True Crime in Academia. and on Twitter at TC in Academia.
And Mary and I, we need some coffee. We need to keep a pep in our step, and we just need that caffeine. So, do you
We
know we
sound
have
energetic. We're not. We're tired.
Yeah, no, this is all coffee. So the Ivory Tower Boiler Room Cafe is our Patreon, patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room. $5 a month unlocks so many bonus episodes. So for the Ivory Tower Boiler Room, you get Mary and I, our exclusive winter arts and culture hot takes, including what do we think about Prince Harry, Pamela Anderson, were our Oscars predictions right? Why does James Cameron have to make Avatar movies? We want more Titanic. Okay, and also I dissect straight gym bro culture with Dominic Janes. Why are people afraid of sodomy? You get all the uncensored conversations on Patreon. That's where our bonus episodes are. And I know, Mary, what do you have on Patreon?
Oh, we have a lot right now. I cover cases that I would not cover on the podcast. So if you want to access those, like Andrew said, go to patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room. So you can see episodes from True Crime, like The Dating Game Killer, AKA Rodney Alcala. Or you can see the live video interviews that we have done. Most recently, I interviewed not one, but 2 forensic psychologists. And get this, I only released 30 minutes of the actual audio to the podcast. So that means the whole extra 30 minutes is on Patreon just for subscribers.
Wait, an extra 30 minutes?
An
See,
extra
just
30
for
minutes.
a cup of coffee, everyone. Okay, well, I also want to shout out our amazing internship team here. So our interns include Andrea, Sara, Kaitlyn, Rosie, and Sheila. A round of applause to all of them. We thank you. They keep the Ivory Tower Boiler Room literally going. So Mary and I are so appreciative. Thanks to our audience. And we can't wait to see you back here. Bye, everyone.